Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Brisbane, and good afternoon, Jakarta, Indonesia. How are you today? So, welcome back to ISAC mini conference organized by Indonesian Student Association of Queensland University of Technology. So, I'm very excited to have today session, and we have already seen very exciting and inspiring presentation for the first and second session this morning and this afternoon. And today is the last session that we have for the first day of the conference. So we will continue our conference tomorrow. However, today we have the last two participants that will present their materials on the mini conference. So I hope everyone are not ready for the next presenters. So first of all, I would like to read the CV for all presenter today. Okay, so today we have two presenters. So the first presenter, it should be Mas Mukhamat Leberty Adi Surya. He's from University of Queensland with the theme Radicalization Through Social Media, Lessons from Indonesian Teenager Indoctrinated by ISIS. This is very cool theme actually. Can't wait to hear from him. And the second presenter will be Michael Aswin Winardi. Is a PhD candidate from Griffith University that will present about systematic literature review on emotional intelligence and conflict management. This is also very exciting. So I will read our presenter CV. The first is Muhammad Leberty Adi Surya. He is an active police member in Indonesia and currently pursue his PhD in psychology at the School of Psychology at University of Queensland. And he went to UNPAD for his Master of Law, and also he actually have several master degree from UI Indonesia in psychology, also Magister Management from Universitas Bayangkara Indonesia, and also he graduate from Fakultas Psikologi UI for his sarjana. And then he used to become lots of position in the police in Indonesia. The last position that he had was Kasubag criminal psychology in bagian psikologi polisi in the psychology bureau in Jakarta. And the last position is a Kompol, Komisaris Polisi, in 2017, and he doing lots of seminars and workshop in the terrorisms, such as in 2020 this year he attended a seminar about terrorism to police staff in East Java, also at the Flinders University workshop online terrorism in Indonesia. Okay, so that's our first speakers. And our second speaker is Michael Aswin Winardi. Currently, he is a PhD candidate in Hospitality and Tourism Management at Griffith Business School, Griffith University, Brisbane. and he went to Trisakti Institute of Tourism for Master of Tourism and doing minor in Human Resource in Hospitality and Tourism. And also he got his Bachelor of Hospitality in Hotel Management from Trisakti Institute of Tourism. So he is work as a lecturer in Hotel Business Program at Podomoro University, and before that he also being a chair or head of Hotel Business Program at Podomoro University, and he also doing massive professional experience since 2010, and he also doing some recent publication such as the role of emotional intelligence and emotional labor among frontline employees in Casino Hotel Macau, published by the International Journal of Tourism Science. Also some awards awarded, full that got scholarship for doctoral degree at Griffith University from LPDP, Ministry of Finance, and also he become a International Council Hotel Restaurant and Institutional Education. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to invite our speaker. Yeah, hello, good afternoon, Mas Aswin, Mas Leberty, how are you?
Mas Herdiyan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us here in mini conference Isak. So, according to the, so I will try to stick with the schedule. So I would like to invite Mas Leberty first to present his speech, and after that, Mas Aswin, you're the next one. Okay.
Okay, Mas.
Okay. Yes. Okay, Mas Leberty, can you prepare your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Herdiyan.
Sorry, Mas Leberty, I think your voice is...
Hello, can you hear my voice now? Is it better?
Yeah, better. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mas.
Okay, so I would like to present you all my presentations, and here we go. Okay, yeah. Well, I want to present you my real experience in handling terrorism case in Indonesia, and this is the part of my PhD research actually, but it's only a small part of the research as well. So here I want to show you how internet should be dangerous things nowadays, for specifically for citizens. And I'm now a basic candidate at you, as Mr. Herdiyan explained before, and thank you. First of all, I want to acknowledge for ISAC committee who invited me to present this presentation. Well, indeed, terrorism is a significant problem in Indonesia. As we known before, there were so many bombings in Indonesia, right? And the most shocking tragedy was the Bali bombing one in 2002, and it killed more than 200 people and wounded more than 1,000 people, innocent people. And as we see on the screen here, it was the Bali bombings, and we can see here how destructive it was. And yeah, we have to deal with this terrorists to be very dangerous things in Indonesia. And if we try to look deeper from our history, terrorism has a long history in Indonesia. even only 4 years after Indonesia, the Republic of Indonesia, we declared our independence in 1944, 45, but in 1949, Kartosuwiryo and Ustadz Sungkar declared another nation named Negara Islam Indonesia, or NII, and these organizations then developed to another at a small and to be transformed to be a different organization like the DI or Jemaah Islamiyah in 1993. That also been declared by Abdullah Sungkar and also Abu Bakar Ba'asyir. The important thing here is about the Abu Bakar Ba'asyir, because Abu Bakar Ba'asyir is now still in prison, but he is an important figure of any terrorism group in Indonesia. Like in 2000, he declared the Majelis Mujahidin Indonesia, and also he then declared a different another terrorist group named Jemaah Ansar Tauhid, and so then it became Jemaah Ansar Sharia, JAS, and also Neo GI. And I want to more focus on these two, the last two groups, or the Takfiri groups, which declared their loyalty to the ISIS in the Syria. And there are GAD or Jemaah Ansarul Daulah, led by Ustadz Aman Abdurrahman, and also MIT or Mujahid Indonesia Timur, led by Santoso, and now by Ali Kalora. The MIT is in Poso, and these two terrorist organizations currently as being a real threat for our nation. And talking about the terrorism on the internet, we can see here that Facebook and Instagram became the most favorite tools to be used by the terrorist organizations. Like you see here, it comes from the Kominfo, and almost 10,000 of cases has been then handled by the authority between the 2017 until 2019. And there are some reasons why now terrorists love to use internet as the main tools in the propaganda. First of all, I think it's about the enemy, as we can that they can use any different names or fake names or even pseudonyms. They can hide the real identity behind the computer screen. That the second one is about the easiness to access. Easy to access the internet. So it is very easy for people to access internet, as they have the mobile data or of the Wi-Fi connection. So it's very easy to be accessed, and also it is also easy to be part of communications among the terrorists. They can, they can use some platforms, a lot of platforms, really, like like let's say the messengers in YouTube, or even recent came to communicate each other. That's very interesting in theory. And the fourth reason is about the resource. It's very, I think it's very cheap to use this kind of online tools, and we have to communicate using the letters and envelope sector, or even they have to come in one place. That would be very dangerous for them to be acknowledged or indicated by the authorities. And the last one, and I think this is the most important thing here, and it's very really that is my presentation here, is about the propaganda and recruitment. And the terrorists use internet to propaganda, to spread over the propaganda, and they do recruitment as well. Yeah. Okay. First of all, I would like to um, explain more about the psychological predisposition in terrorism. I think that's also interesting, as previous researchers have found that uh, there were some psychological factors found in the captured terrorists. Um, they are not crazy actually. Terrorists are not crazy, but they have some some psychological factors such as the grievance or perceived injustice, unfairness, and also a need for identity, need for belonging, and redemption in revenge, feeling of sins, etc. So that's previous um, researchers have found these psychological factors to be as a predisposition for someone to become a terrorist. And ISIS indoctrinations and recruitment process usually involve three steps, which are the infrastructure weakness. It means they will usually show about the weakness or in our system, like the government system, like the government's very corrupt, and the authorities do not work well, and sort of thing. And the second level is about the targeted disconstruction, means they will challenge the belief of the someone's or individuals, try the authorities to be challenged with more, like ideal idea, such as the Islamic rules or the Sharia would be the only solutions for any problems in Indonesia. And then if someone then get interest got interested with the idea, so they will follow any ideas offered by the terrorists. I have my own experience in 2016 when I found the first teenager involved in terrorism cases in Indonesia. Before the Surabaya bombing in 2018, actually I have found a case that of a teenager involved in terrorism cases in Indonesia. He was 16 years old, and he used Facebook when he then met someone, a mysterious person that then we identified as Indonesian, a former terrorist president, and the location was in Syria. And this young boy is terrifically, he had a good ability and hacking Wi-Fi, and also he practiced smoke bomb, and also he mastered inducing an airsoft gun. Yeah. The problem at the time was, should the authority capture this teenager, or should the government treat him? But how? That's the question. And the mission involved stakeholders like BNPT, Special Detachment Unit, Intelligence Unit, Police Unit, local government, and also the Children Protection Commissions, or KPA, as the target was only a teenager. So yeah, and I was an INB psychologist at the time, and I led the team. And we need to make a profile of the teenager, mainly using a psychological approach. And then we conducted psychological testing for all of the students. Well, this teenager, he was SMK students, yeah. So we then apply testing for all of the students, and we use some methods like like the paper test, observation, interviews. Um, the findings were so interesting for me and also for the whole of the team, because this teenager, he had above average intelligence level, and he was an introvert, and then so he had a strong passionate in guns and ID. Um, our family and his school could not support this passionate, and then he tried to find it from the internet. We also found like a psychological factors when his father was a bad smoker and spent most of that and use family's money only for hobbies. So he, you know, he he saw his father as unresponsible husband and father, and so when where R comes from a low-income family, there was a program from the government for the poor to renovate houses or the bedah rumah, and but his neighbor, which is the rich, got this program and not him. So then he perceived that the government is corrupt, and injustice feeling from the authority then arose inside him. And when he then connected with someone on the internet, uh, he then thought with the radical license of materials, and then he accepted the best nation in the world is a nation based on Islam. And R will struggle for his dream to be an expert in weapon. That was his dream. Well, here I would like to share you four simple steps for some a young Indonesian to be radicalized through social media. The first one is when he joined in a more general groups or general teams or German general channels, and if he is active in the group, then someone from the terrorist members would send him a private message consists of the links and materials to be read by the individual, and when then they are interested with the materials, so they will make more intense communications through the internet, and then accept all of the ideas, and he will be ready to do any orders from the groups or the internet, the ISIS or the terrorist members. There are some lessons we can take from the case. The first one is we found local injustice feeling as he had faced the real cases when the government didn't give help to his family, but his neighbor, who that's supposed to be him, he thought like that. And we also found a psychological profile that he is a teenager, right? He should find a important feature that should be uh, his father, but he didn't find it from his father, but he found it from the internet. A guy with good, religious knowledge, and also can tout it a lot of materials about religion. So he could not find it from his father, and he found it from the internet. And ISIS agents really know how to manipulate the psychology of the teenagers through propaganda. The ISIS agents, they could choose any interesting topics, and they also use animation sometimes, or movies, or um, any other materials that would it's very interesting to be uh, seen or to be read by the teenager. And on the process of indoctrination, like I've mentioned before, it's like a reconstruction of social, moral, and reality. How the terrorist group then manipulate these facts to to create and to support their narrations. Um, Internet and social media is the primary environment for the young generation. Like nowadays everybody has their own gadgets in their hand, right? So it is yes, it's very useful, but it's also threats behind these gadgets. And ISIS agents now use internet as an effective means of radicalization and recruitment. So, and we can also learn from the case that the importance of direct social interactions, specifically from a family, to prevent radicalizations among young Indonesians. I mean, also we um, are now very we use gadgets or any devices in everyday life, but it is the best way to prevent any I think terrorism or other crime, like social interactions among the family members. And the re-indoctrination through passionate is also with like this. I suggest this at the case that to re-indoctrinate the young boy, we should choose a similar figure as the previous figure that radicalized the boy. So we had to find a guy with with a good Islam knowledge, and also he mastered in IT and guns, and it works. Now R has become one of police supporters. And thank you. I think that's all I need to share you all. Mr. Herdiyan, are you there? Hello, Mr. Herdiyan.
Hello, thank you very much, Pak Leberty, for your inspiring talk. I think this is very important issue that we have for the last recent years about the terrorism. And it's very interesting to see your presentation that there's slightly a transformation on how the terrorists made their recruitment process and also their motive. Is that right?
Yes, correctly. Yeah. Now they dance the methods in recruiting and also in spreading the narrations or propaganda from the offline or face-to-face to become online. Online methods.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Pak Leberty, now we will move to the question and answer, and I would like to invite all the audience, wherever you are in Brisbane, in Jakarta, streaming live from YouTube or Facebook, to post your question to this very inspiring talk from Pak Leberty. Okay, so we have the first question from Pak Gunawan. Is there any psychological tool for fight the ISIS doctrination with the current social media trend? Maybe campaign, website to be used, or online training? Yes, very interesting question, Pak. Leberty. This is question from Gunawan.
Yeah. Okay, so I will answer that question. So that actually an interesting question. Excellent, Mr. Gunawan. And actually, we do not have any psychological tools to fight terrorism. We do have some, like psychological tools to detect. Yeah, it is developed by the BNPT actually, and but it could not fight against terrorism. We can fight against terrorism. It depends on the which level the terrorism itself. Like if they still in the narrations on the internet, we should supply different narrations sort of thing. But if someone has become a bomber candidate, so we should use law enforcement method. So we cannot find. No, I'm sorry. We cannot fight terrorism only use kind of tools. No, we cannot. It's a complicated threat, so we have to look it case by case and step by step. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Liberty, for the answer. Pak Gunawan, hope the answer give you more some clarity on the issue. So while we wait for another question, so I'm thinking that there's a changes on the age of the people who enter the organization, because social media are more popular among the youngster compared to the old terrorists maybe. What do you think?
Yes, and yes, I agree with that. That nowadays they are now terrorist organization. They are now targeted the youth, the youth to be recruited to the organization. So and as we all know that youth, they are like the millennial and the generation Y or Z generations. They are very familiar with the gadgets and
Social
online
media,
platforms. So yeah,
the technology, yes.
the the ISIS and
Yes.
other terrorist organizations is now they use online media as the
Yeah,
main
okay, that's very, very interesting. A big homework for all of us. Okay, so we have next question from Edwin Adrianta. Hi, Liberty. Thanks for the sharing. This is an important and delicate topic. So he asked, what is the most difficult aspect to begin studying terrorism? What will be your suggestion for future aspiring researcher doing a study about terrorism? Yes, thank you for the question, Edwin. Please, Pak Liberty.
yes, the most difficult aspect I think is about your bravery. Why? Because speaking about terrorism, and if you want to try to become a researcher on the topic of terrorism, you have to deal with the terrorists or the former terrorists, right? So it is not easy. The first one is not easy to be close with them, to be interviewed. But the second thing is it is also a risk behind the scientists of the researchers. If we interact with the terrorists or former terrorists, we have to, concern about our safety and our family, and that's also become my priority.
Yeah, exactly. So far, I know that approaching terrorist group or participant is part of the high risk participant for the research, right? So
Yeah.
not everyone have the capacity to do this.
Yes, correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Liberty, for the answer. Okay, Edwin, your answer, your question was answered. Okay. Now the next question comes from Verika Indrawati. Verika asked, do you have suggestion from psychological perspective for parents how to prevent their children engage in such organization? Yeah, this is important as well. Please, Pak Liberty.
Yeah, like I found from the case I met that we need to improve our offline discussion with our children. Actually, yeah, that's the most important thing. When we if we can discuss any topics with our children, that would be good. So they can ask everything that might be potentially dangerous for their life and their future. Includes in joining any groups, terrorist groups, or even the any criminal groups like you can see here beside of the terrorism we should also notice about the threat of like the pornography and another dangerous group that's not appropriate for our children. I think the key is to talk to with our children offline, not online.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. I mean, this is not only with the terrorism. I think lots of dangerous materials spread on the internet, hoaxes, all the misinformation surround us. That's the big homework, not only for the government, but I think in the family, as a parents, we have such responsibility to make sure that our children, our young generation, cannot engage with such organization. Very inspiring question, Mbak Ferika. Thank you so much. And okay, so the last another question, yes, from Mas Muhammad Roland. How is the role of digital literacy among teenagers to counter radicalization? Yes, yes, this is also
Well,
important. Please,
yeah,
Liberty.
that is also an important question because nowadays uh, people also asking about how then we provide another materials beside the radical materials. That is so important because in the past we found that I'm sorry the um, websites organized by uh, either the government or the two big Muslim organization was you know the websites were not quite interesting to be opened by the young generation really love to uh, read and watch and they 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 need to something to be special. It's not to just make them bored, getting bored. Like they don't like board materials. That is very important. So yes, literacy should be uh, supplied on the internet by the governments or NGOs or any activists against terrorism. We have to provide citizens with alternatives of literacy. And let's say if, there are so many radical materials, so we need to provide a more moderate and friendly uh, Islam understanding, sort of thing.
Yes, thank you so much, Pak Liberty. I think this is um, important topic to discuss about the digital literacy because not only the teenager, but I think the parent as well, they need to be literate before they teach their children. Sometimes the children have more information how to use their gadget compared to their parent, and sometimes it become tricky parts of for the parents. So teenagers or children hiding something that maybe their parent didn't know about that. So yes, thank you very much, Pak Liberty. Okay, we move to another question. Okay, yes, another question from Pak Gunawan again. So this time he asked, is there any relationship between educational level or literacy level to the propagation of terrorism, especially in Indonesia? Yes.
Education.
Yeah, please, Pak
Yes,
Liberty.
yes. Sorry, I can say no. Everybody could be radicalized, no matter how high their education or no matter their background. I found even someone that graduated from uh, uh, popular uh, pondok pesantren could be radicalized. And I also found the engineer from a top university could be radicalized by this topic. So there is no connection or relation between the
Okay.
education.
Yes, thank you so much, Pali. That's good. Okay, I mean this is the last question. I would like to just ask Pak Liberty just like a couple of minutes to answer the last question from Yanuar about do you think when we have to start to educate our children and young generation to prevent radicalization doctrine?
Oh,
Yes,
when?
please.
So the question is when, right? So
Yes.
yeah, I think we need to give a good understanding of about our region um, from the beginning of the development period, mainly in the within 5 years in the life. So it's very important to provide them more moderate understanding, and we could give them support to be tolerant with others that different with us. I think it could be done for every parent from the beginning of the life.
Okay, okay, yes. Thank you so much, Pak Liberty. I think what you have presented today is very important, not only related about how we counter with the terrorism, but this is kind of self-reflection for all of us, for our family, how to prevent such paradigm goes into our family. So thank you so much, and hopefully you can join with us again next time. So thank you, Pak Liberty, once again, and I also want to thanks to all participants who give address their question. So now we will move to the next presenters and the last presenter for our first day of the conference. Now we have Pak Michael Aswin Winardi that will present about systematic literature review on emotional intelligence and conflict management. Okay, so time is yours, Pak Aswin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pak Herdiyan, for the introduction. So, good afternoon and welcome to the session, everybody. So, I hope you will enjoy this last session. So, I repeat again, my name is Michael. I'm PhD scholar from Griffith Business School, and my background is in hospitality and tourism. My research project title is about emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and conflict management in the hotel industry. So yeah, now I would like to give presentation of one of my research paper. And before I start, I want you to watch this out. So I want to ask the audience, and please comment in the chat box. Have you watched this cartoon movie Inside Out? You can type if you already watched this cartoon movie in the chat box. Yeah. So why I want you to watch this movie? Because I got inspiration from this cartoon movie in the writing process of my research project. Inside Out is a film about an 11 years old named Riley who moves across the country from Minnesota to San Francisco with her parents. Riley experiences a transformation in her mind and she tries to adjust to her new life in San Francisco and to the difficult process of growing up. The Riley's 5 emotions, as you can see in the screen, they are joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. As help her through her transition to adolescence and to assist her in making what they think are right decisions. The lesson learned that I gained from this movie: sometimes I have no control over my emotions, only over what I choose to do about them. And even if I know this, I can still be hard to make good decisions because my feelings are so powerful and there are so many of them fighting to be heard. Inside Out, get this. So this story is related to our life now, especially in the workforce environment. So we are now exposed with the different characteristics of people in any situations, and also involve our emotions during the interactions with others. Conflict could occur anytime in our workplace, and also the target that we have to achieve as a key performance indicator sometimes is very tough. Therefore, we have to deal with those kind of conditions and situations. So interpersonal relationship in organization play important role in relation to job tasks and communication. So as you can see, conflict is disagreement or differing objectives which cause a negative effect for any party involved. So when conflict occur in organization, individuals apparently want to avoid the conflict, and most of them, there will be negative impact and they difficult to solve the conflict. So why emotional intelligence? Does emotional intelligence relate to conflict? So let's take a look about the fact. Example, what is involved in conflict? Emotions. Yeah, that's right. Emotions have implications for individuals such as stress, frustration, burnout, anger, hatred, and also can reflect the organization in terms of low productivity and effectiveness. On the other hand, emotions in organizational context is a fundamental and integral part of work life. So I conducted a systematic quantitative literature review because this study selection of literature that is explicit, reproducible, and comprehensive. And furthermore, this method is useful to explore new and emerging trends within disciplines and allows boundaries to be mapped on what is known and thus identify existing gaps. So within this work, the objective of this work is first to examine the literature based on research locations, area, and research outcomes, to identify what conflicts occur in organizations, to identify what measurement tools have been used to resolve conflicts, and to identify whether EI can be utilized to resolve conflicts. So based on the systematic literature that I did, I adapted the Prisma model from Moher, Leberty, Teslav, and Altman 2009. And EI studies were identified using electronic databases, including the Scopus, Sage, Emerald Insight, and Taylor and Francis. And the keyword used in this search included emotional intelligence, emotions, conflict management, and conflict resolutions. And only original research using the term EI and published in academic journals were included. Review papers and other reports, such as conference proceedings or thesis, were not included to this study. So a total of 900 plus articles were identified, and at the first screening, there are 400 plus articles were excluded that were not deemed acceptable within the review parameters. As you can see in the screen, there are 4 parameters that I choose for this study. And a further 100 plus were excluded as the study either did not specifically related to EI, and also the subject was not related to the business management and industry. So remaining only 29 studies for review in this paper. So this is the research result. So there are 29 studies in the high-ranking journal from Q1 to Q3 that I found in this study. And most of the research were conducted in the developed countries such as USA, Australia, South Korea, and less in for example, in Indonesia, in India, in Taiwan. So the interesting I found is the studies were conducted in, most of the study were conducted in the educational institutions rather than in the workplace. And based on the finding, the type conflict in organizations, there are 3 types of conflicts. So the first is task and relationship conflict. And then the second is a work-family conflict, which also occurred in organizations that had impact on job satisfaction, schedule flexibility satisfaction, and employee behavior in the workplace. But unfortunately, this work did not find examples of interpersonal conflict between employees and customers in organization, as there is a lack of research that examines customer satisfaction in the context of organizational conflict. And also, most of the conflict management style that researchers use in the conflict research is, most of them use the conflict management style from the Rahim 1985. So based on the findings also, there are a lot of EI instruments to measure the EI itself. There are many instruments, but only one model that very suitable for EI because the validity and reliability. The name of the instrument is the Mayer-Salovey-Caruso Ability Model, and it also very well known among the EI researchers in the world. And also in this study find that EI is the positive strategy within conflict management, because in order to manage conflict effectively, we must consider both the rational, emotional sides of the situation. So this is the theoretical contributions for the emotional intelligence. Actually, there is a lack of study examine emotional intelligence and conflict management. And also for the conflict management, there is a lack of study which examine the customer from conflict management to the customer conflict. And for the model measurement, that the very valid is from the Salovey-Mayer-Caruso model. We call it MSCATE. And for the conflict management is from Rahim organizational conflict. And for the outcomes between emotional intelligence and conflict management, there is a lack of research examine the customer satisfaction, customer engagement, and customer loyalty as an outcome variable. So there is some practical implications. First is geography and culture. So geography and culture also may impact on the degree of emotional intelligence within employees. For instance, there may be differences between Western and Eastern countries where individualism is more prominent in Western culture. And furthermore, for example, in Indonesia, the model is more to the collectivist country. So we call it as a gotong royong, or we commonly, people in Indonesia want to solve their conflict in terms of we call it kekeluargaan. So, and actually, and also for the human resource, the HR manager or HR directors has to be aware of the level of EI within employees in organization. And for emotional intelligence, EI can be a key to resolving conflicts within the organization. And the conclusion of this study, as I mentioned in the previous slide, that MSCAT is the ability model to measure EI, and also the Rahim conflict management style is one of the best instruments to resolve conflict. And the application of EI in the industry, especially in the hotel and tourism industry, is very applicable. And for the future research, scholars in conflict management should explore further about conflict between employees and customers, because in the context also in the service industry, especially in the tourism and hospitality, it is very important to examine more about the conflict between the employees and also the customers. So there is a limitation of this study. First is the quantity of the literature. The second is the work also did not investigate the company size or industry type. And also the systematic literature review that I conducted applied in this work also only utilize the English language journals. Therefore, the future studies may benefit from a multi-language review of this topic. So thank you. That's all of my presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Mas Michael Aswin. Very engaging presentation about the emotional intelligence or in the organizational setting to handle the conflict, interpersonal conflict between the employees and customer and so on. Okay, so I would like to invite all the participants to post their question to the you can access from the YouTube live and also Facebook. Okay, Mas Aswin, while we wait for the question, I'm wondering. So this is a systematic review, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I think this is a very good start for you to elaborate more about how the landscape of the theoretical concept about the emotional intelligence in the field. So you mentioned earlier that that might be a difference when we applied this concept in collectivist country and the individualistic country. Can you be more specified? I mean, can you explain more to me and all the audience what the difference that you think will emerge related how people expressing their emotion?
Yeah. In the context of Indonesia, for example, when people in organization, when individuals in an organization has to resolve conflict, most probably the individuals or the employees will solve the conflict with kekeluargaan, you know,
with the family,
rather than if in the individualistic they only want to resolve the problem. They don't care about for example, like I don't care about the personality, the characteristic within the employees, whether it is can harm one person, and they don't really care about that. But in collectivist country, they really like empathy to your feelings, to your emotions. What will be the effect of the conflict when you solve it within the organizations?
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Pak Michael Aswin, we move to the first question from Mbak Yanuar Primanda. So she asked, based on your review, is there any relation between culture and conflict management and emotional intelligence? Yeah.
Yes, actually, my research project is about cultural intelligence, emotional intelligence, and conflict management. So there are relationship among them because now in the globalization era, in organizations has to face the fact that especially in the hotel industry, there are host employee and also the expatriate employees, and they working together. And cultural intelligence is very important in such organizations, especially in the tourism, because it's complex. Because everybody can work in one hotel. For example, in Indonesia, of course, in Bali, for example. Um, for example, in the some hotel management group, like Accor, it based from France. So all the general manager, for example, and also some of the revenue manager or some of the food and beverage director, they are from France. So they have to adapt the Indonesian culture, especially for the Balinese people, how to working together with them. That's cultural intelligence will work. And for the informational intelligence, it's more to be how to manage your emotions when you deal with people. Sometimes you have conflict not only with your relatives, but also you have conflict with your superior or your subordinates. So that's why it's very important. You have to manage and to know about cultural intelligence and also the emotional intelligence within organizations.
Yeah. So okay, thank you so much. So are you trying to say that it also depends on the type of organization itself? I mean, some industry like in hotel management must be very different with the like in the military or maybe in the more strict company like in the financial company. Do you think is there any difference that from the type of organization related to how the peoples in there manage their conflict?
It depends on the how large and how the organization can expose the difference part.
Okay.
So, for example, like in military, I think there is no expatriates. For yeah, the actors is from the local people. They are not exposed to the expatriates, for
Okay.
example. But for the multi-level cooperations in Indonesia, for example, and also some of the hotels, financial, banking, and everything. So they can invite the expatriates employees to work together in their organization. Yeah. So it depends on the nature of the organization,
The organization,
actually.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we move to the next question from Mas Muhammad Roland. He asked if leaders in an organization still use like and dislike in evaluating performance of their employee, what will happen to the organization? Okay, it's very relevant question. Please.
Um, so what will happen? It will be chaos, Pak, actually, because and conflicts will occur oftenly because like and dislike is not appropriate to appraise employees' performance. So you have to be an objective. So actually, this my research also um, want to examine also from the perspective of emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence to the conflict management, and also relates to the organizational performance, which are the employee retention and also the employee performance. So yeah, for sure it will be chaos if the appraisal, the evaluating performance is like or dislike.
Yeah, so I think this is for the next step of the organizational need. So when the organization still um, concerning about such problem, it means that the organization itself need to be upgraded first before we think
Yes.
about more
Yeah.
sophisticated thing like how to
That's
resolve
true. That's
conflict.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as I said, um, if the organization or firms use the objective performance, also conflict can occur in the organization because always there is a objective perspective from the superior or the relatives. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, you have to be careful about this. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, Michael, that the conflict is something that we cannot avoid, but we need to manage it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the third question from Mbak Verika. Pak Aswin, how do you think as a manager we can improve our employee emotional intelligence to minimize conflict in the organization?
Actually, you have as organization, if you aware about this, and then you have to like give training to your employees. And actually, the first thing is the employees has to aware about their emotions first, rather than knowing about others' emotions. Because if you know of your emotions, and then you can regulate that emotions, and you can also after you regulate that emotions, you can um, use that emotions to make a relationship with others. So if you want to the organization use the emotional intelligence, yeah, the way is you have to train the employees from the bottom to the up. So yeah, it will be beneficial for your organization because they know what the emotion is and how to regulate the emotions among them. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Pak Aswin. So I'm just curious. So what is the next step of your research after you finish the literature review?
Actually, now I'm waiting for the confirmation result, Pak Herdiyan. And actually, this is my second year. So yeah, I
Okay,
just entered the second year.
all the best. Okay, for the
Thank you.
next question, still we have a question from Mas Roland. What is the more effective ways to have regeneration of the staff? And he also asked about how to use conflict to boost productivity. So there's two questions.
Yeah. I think how to regeneration is yeah. Now in organization, we know about coaching and mentoring. So this way, it's now like every companies, multi-level companies or the individual companies will use this way to do the regeneration for the staff. So coaching and mentoring is very important. You not blame for the employees misunderstanding or employees mistaken, but you have to know why this has happened. So you have to know from the employee side about why you do this, and then you have to probing uh, the problems. And then as a mentor, you know how to develop that people, that employees. So now is famous the coaching and mentoring training
So it's,
in the organization. Yeah.
so it's like more
And how to
humanistic
use,
approach.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Because it's a part of it's our responsibility to coach and mentor the all the employees, actually from the superior to the subordinates, because it's very important if you want to sustain your business, and then you have to do that. There is no other way.
Yeah, yeah.
And how to use conflict to boost productivity? I think not conflict because it's different. I think pressure. It's good for your productivity because pressure can boost up your creativity and innovation to become a productive employee. So I think conflict, conflict can. It depends on the conflict. Actually, if the conflict related to the task, it will be productive. But if not, for example, like relationship conflict, it will be worse actually. So it depends on the conflict itself. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. There's no simple answer for that. Okay, so the last question come from Zulaiha Indralia. Good afternoon. How do a company or organization cope with the conflict management regarding equality, such as LGBT employee? This is very relevant issue to discuss now. Yes.
Yes. I think the organization has to look at the organizational culture, and then they have to make a clear statement about the reality now about LGBT. So I think the organizations or company has to define the organizational culture, because there is a vision statement there is a mission statement there, and then how to makes an equality within the employees. So the top management has to redefine the organizational culture in a company, because if not, it will be like duri dalam daging. So you have to, the top management actually, especially for the HR, has to define about the organizational culture that they want to build to make everybody equal and equality.
Yeah, I think this is very important to address. I think it's not only for the LGBT employee, but for all marginal groups that recently now involved in more activity in the company. So yes, okay. Next question from Wawan: how do effectively handle conflict for employees?
So how to effectively handle conflict of employees? Actually, it depends on the situations of the company, Pak Wawan. So if the organization has strong culture, and then the culture itself will make the employee can like spontaneously they can interact and resolve the conflict between them. And if not, you have to involve your superior or for example like HR to resolve the conflict, because if not they will like it will become worse and worse if you not solve the conflict. So how to effectively, I think it depends on the organizations. So you have to find, because the nature of the organizations will find the way how effectively you solve the conflict. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Aswin, for the answer. Okay, the next question comes from Pak Gunawan. He asks, is there any discussion on discrimination toward disability creating conflict? Do you have any suggestion related to the equality? Yes, this is very interesting.
In this states, I don't have any discussions about or discrimination about the disability, but in a hotel industry itself, we now open to the disability. For example, like some of them is employed to the hotel, because now hotel is open for that, And for sure, it depends on the disability that they have. For example, for the deaf people, and then they can hear the voice of the customers. Yeah, they will put that employee not in for the frontline employees, but in the back of office, for example, like that, to accommodate the disability. Do you have any suggestions related to equality? For sure, in the hotel industry, for example, the hotel's employee, we really, if the hotel, it's like what? It's like consensus. I said, in hotel there is no statement for equality for every LGBT, but in the hotel, we also work with that reality, everything. So in the hotel, it's a common for us, especially in the tourism and hospitality. It's very common for the equality. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for the all the question. Okay, so another question from Pawawan. What are the relationship between the dimension of emotional intelligence with the subordinate strategies of handling conflict? Thank you, Pawawan. Please.
Yeah. The dimensions of emotional intelligence is about emotions, how to regulate emotions, how aware about your emotions, and then how you regulate that emotions from yourself to others. So in terms of conflict, of course, because in my slide that I mentioned about conflict involve emotions. That's why emotional intelligence is very important to resolve the conflict, because when you know your emotions, and you can divide it between the emotions and the tasks that cause your conflict. So you know better your emotions when you know your level of EI.
Okay, thank you, Aswin. Okay, our last question for today comes from Bligade Vidyana Swarda. So far, based on your literature review, is there any differences between Eastern and Western culture in terms of the causes of the conflict? It's a very interesting question.
Yeah, based on my literature review, I don't examine the causes, but to solve the conflict. So for sure, yes. Is there any differences? Yes, of course, between the Eastern and Western cultures, of course, because the interesting finding of my systematic literature review is the Western is typically for the developed country, but the collectivist is for the developed countries, and the individualist more to developing countries. That's interesting. For example, in our region, in Southeast Asia, you can see, I think, only Singapore, because of the assimilation cultures, they more to the Western cultures rather than the neighbors. For example, like Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, they more to the collectivist country rather than in Singapore. For example, like that. So yeah, it's it matters for the Western and Eastern culture.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael Aswin, for all the answer. I think this is very interesting topic to discuss. However, I'm afraid I need to stop the our discussion
All
here.
good, all good.
Yes, because we run out of time. But I would like to invite Pak Liberty and Pak Michael Aswin to give their closing statements for today's session. I would like to invite, I think, yes, Pak Aswin, you can do first for your closing statement, please.
Okay. Yeah, I hope that I can do contribution to hotel, especially in the hotel industry in Indonesia, from what I did now from my research project. And I hope and I pray for the hospitality and tourism industry in Indonesia and all over the world, because of this pandemic has a huge impact to the hospitality and tourism sector. And then, yeah, I hope next year we can have a normal situation and the industry will be survive next year. Thank you, Pak Herdiyan.
Okay, thank you. All the best for Pak Aswin.
Thank you so much, Pak.
Okay, I think so. It seems that Pak Leberty have some connection issue. So the closing statement only delivered by Pak Michael Aswin. However, I would like to say thank you so much for all the presenters and all the audience for our today's session, the third session of our mini conference conducted by ISAK, collaborate with Kelas Bersama. So thank you very much. But before we end our session, I would like to remind all of you to join with us again tomorrow. We have lots of another great speakers for tomorrow, and we will start on 11:45 Brisbane time or 8:45 in Jakarta time, WIB. There will be a speech from the Consulate General of Indonesia, live from New South Wales, Sydney, from Mr. Heru Hartanto Subolo, and other keynote speakers and presenters for tomorrow. So don't forget to join with us again tomorrow. And thank you once again for your active participation. And that's all for today. And see you tomorrow, and goodbye.